YouTube, welcome back. So it's been a bit since my last video. It was at the point in the league where I don't think new currency making videos was really necessary, and I also wasn't enjoying the league that much. Necropolis just kind of took the fun out of the league for me. 61 items being basically printable on demand didn't really interest me. There weren't many upgrade paths I could go for my character, so I just decided to quit the league pretty early last league. But this league, I'm very excited for this league. There's so much new content to do, so many new builds to play. I am so excited. The videos will be pouring out. I'm going to have a video tonight, which this is going to be Wednesday nights by the time I'm recording this. And I should be uploading this before 12, so it will still be Wednesday. I'll be uploading Thursday, and I'll be uploading on Friday for league start. So today's video is going to be a currency making tier list for days 1 through 3 of the league. I think this is fairly important because some people don't know what is good to farm early on in the league and what isn't, because that drastically changes from day 1 to 3. After day 3, drastically changes for the rest of the first week. And then even after the first week, it changes past that, right? So this is very important for people, right? People just don't know what to farm. So I want to preface this video by saying these are speculative based on previous leagues, right? My previous experience playing 10 plus leagues of PoE at this point. This is a league unlike any other. This league, the ramifications of not having MF group play, printing items with their quants, and the impact of having an auction house on top of that just is not known. So some of these strategies may not be as good or may be better than they were previously, but this is a tier list that I'm going to make based on previous league experience and also a bit of speculation based on where things will land this league. All right, guys, so I just want to explain the tiers real quickly. So Netflix, I'm just going to put this here for now. It's hideout warrioring. So hideout warrioring has the potential to be the best currency making strategy throughout the entire league. However, it really depends on the player. This can be the best, but it could also be the worst if you don't know what you're doing. This is a very information driven and experience driven way of making currency. I'm not going to put this under like, I recommend you doing this for league start, or I don't recommend you doing this. This really just depends on your experience in the game. For the rest of these will all be something that I will either be recommending or not recommending based on where they are. So S tier is going to be best of the best, basically. If you pick this, you're printing currency on league start. A tier is going to be really good. It's a good currency printing strategy. They're not quite as good as S tier, but you will still make a lot of currency. B is going to be okay. Not the best, not the worst, kind of whatever. C is going to be only do this if you really like the mechanic and want to do this. It's not that great. D, just don't do it. Literally just don't do it. And then I didn't add Affliction to this list because Affliction, I'm kind of undetermined on Affliction. We haven't had this as a form of making currency as a league starter before, and we don't know if any numbers have changed from the Affliction League, so that's just going to stay undetermined. So starting off with Blight. Blight is going to be A tier. I think Blight is very solid on league start. Blight prints a lot of basic currency, and you really can't go wrong with it. You can start it fairly early on in your mapping, right? You do white tier Blights, and it's really good. Heist is just basically the same thing as Blight. It prints a lot of basic currency, but you can do it even faster and sooner, right? You can do Heist in the campaign and make a lot of currency in the campaign before even going and doing maps, right? You can make 100 chaos out of Heist before you even go and do maps. Obviously, this was nerfed when they removed de-leveling, right? Because you would de-level, get books, level, get books, de-level, get books. You can't do that anymore. It's still really solid on a league start scenario. I was unsure where to put Bestiary. I think I'm going to put it on the B tier. GGG stated they've added the 6-link beast to Bestiary now, the base core Bestiary, instead of requiring a memory. These will be maybe strong. I'm unsure. However, Bestiary in general is still decent to farm week 1. However, this is an item you're not going to make a lot of currency at the start of league doing. This is going to be something where you hold on to the very valuable beasts, the Vivid Vultures. I don't remember if those are going to the core drop pool. The Cricket Chimerals, right? Those you're going to hold on to for maybe week 1, week 2, when everyone's mirror crafting, right? Where these are worth a lot of currency. That's when you're going to make your currency in Bestiary. You can get ahead of doing that by farming right now, right? And keeping your yellows, keeping all of those. But this isn't something you're going to make a lot of currency on early, but it's something you can basically farm, hold on to, and it's really good doing. I'm going to put it in the okay tier. Obviously, if you want something that's going to make you a lot of money, specifically days 1 through 3, this isn't it, but I still think it's a good thing you can farm for later on. Harvest. I think Harvest is A tier. I think Harvest is A tier. I think it's a little bit worse than Blight, days 1 through 3, but people still want Harvest to reroll their reses on their gear. They're doing this to swap like essences, right? Flippers want this to swap the essences. I mean, you're crafting gear with it. Overall, it's really, really solid days 1 through 3, and it makes a lot of currency. All right, going on to Scarab Farming. I think this is very speculative to me. I'm going to put this in the A tier. I'm not entirely sure where this will shake up, how expensive scarabs are going to be, how many people are going to be using, right? Or even like the ways you can farm scarabs going into this. But I think it's decent, right? Everyone always uses some sort of scarabs for the most part. So I think there will always be a market for this, and the blasters and juicers will want scarabs. Tormented Spirits, I'm going to put in D tier. This isn't something you should be target farming. It's got nerf after nerf. And with no MF gear, it's not the best. We're going to Legion. I think Legion is the best of A tier. Legion's just a fan favorite, and it's just a really, really, really good just map blaster mechanic, right? You do the Legion, you get out. Do the Legion, get out, and it prints a load of currency, right? From your incubators to the maps it drops, right? Ritual may surprise you. I almost put it in the D tier as well, but I'm actually going to put Ritual in C tier. Early on in the league, synthesized items go for a decent amount of money. Right, items with decent synthesis implicits go for money. You can also hit percent dex, percent int, right? You can hit +1 frenzy, +1 power. All these go for a lot on League Start. The belts go for a lot. The rings go for a lot. There's a bunch of stuff, right? Non-curse auras for aura bots go for a lot. It is really solid days 1 through 3. It was on the brink of being at the very bottom of B tier, but I'm going to put it at the top of C tier because I think this is the best thing I'm going to put in C tier, which bring into Abyss. Abyss is also C tier. People want Stygian Vises. People kind of want their Abyss jewels, but the mechanic itself, it's not too profitable. You kind of had to hit a decent Abyss jewel for it to be worth anything. The Vises are bases that sort of sell for a lot, but it's not insane. I think it's C tier. All right, going on to Sanctum. Sanctum is an S tier. Sanctum prints divines. It prints crafting currencies like annuls, right? Scours, fusings, basically everything you want, it prints it. And it prints it in raw currency values, right? Which is massive. It prints divine after divine after divine, and it's just worth so much. So Sanctum is very, very, very solid on League Start because, you know, a couple divines on League Start goes a long way, and just getting, you know, 2 divines from one book, 4 divines from another book, it's really profitable. So if you guys are confused as to what this is Rogue Exiles. I think Rogue Exiles is actually B tier. Rogue Exiles is kind of an add-on mechanic to other things, but it can be farmed on its own to farm scarabs, to farm maps. Rogue Exiles does farm things. I don't think it's insanely good, but I think it's okay, right? It is at the very bottom of B tier, but it is okay. Speaking of which, Harbingers. Where do I think Harbingers should go? Speaking of which, Harbingers. I think Harbingers should go in the B tier as well. I think Harbingers are obviously better than this, like I said. I think Harbingers is better than Bestiary. I think Bestiary is second worst for days 1 through 3. This is a holding strategy, as I mentioned. Harbingers are fairly good on League Start. They're supposed to drop maps. So maps are always in very high demand. Maps sell very well in League Start. The Fracturing Orbs, they probably sell for a decent bit on League Start. You can hold them for a little bit as well for when people want to craft maybe in a couple days after days 1 through 3. I haven't done a lot of Harbinger stuff, so I did ask No Name. He does a lot of Harbinger farming, and this is where he would put it for a League Start scenario. So I trust him on this assessment. Bossing. So this is bossing. Whereas you boss, you can, this is bossing with carries in mind. However, normal bossing is still extremely profitable early on in the league. I think bossing is probably better than Sanctum days 1 through 3. Bossing falls off after day. If we're talking after day 3, Sanctum absolutely destroys bossing. But days 1 through 3, bossing uniques and bossing fragments, bossing carries, everything is so expensive for the output of bossing that it's just insanely profitable. This is something I would recommend anyone to do if they have experience getting to maps quickly, completing their atlas quickly, getting geared quickly, and they can just start slamming bosses. I would highly recommend this, but it does come at the caveat where you have to use TFT or other services to do carries, right? This isn't something you can just blast. That is the caveat behind bossing. All right, Ultimatum. Ultimatum goes in the B tier. I think Ultimatum is pretty solid. People want catalysts, but we're not sure how the new, I was tempted to put it in bottom of A. However, we're not sure exactly how the changes to Ultimatum are going to affect it. If the changes are overwhelmingly positive, it goes into A, right? But as Ultimatum is right now, which is how I'm going to judge it, I think it can stay in B tier. Because all it really drops right now are catalysts, which are worth a decent amount on League Start. But I don't know how highly I rate just catalysts from the mechanic. I don't have much to say. I haven't actually farmed Ultimatum myself. All I know is from watching videos of people farming Ultimatum and just secondhand experience from people I know that farmed it. I don't think it's that great for League Start. I originally had Breach in C tier, but now that I'm looking at this, I think it goes here to the B tier. I think Breach early on can actually print a lot of currency, mainly through just the Breach Stones, right? If you farm enough Breach Stones, pure Breach Stones, I think with like investment, I think this can be a very good strategy. My initial assessment was that it wasn't good based on the drops it has, but coming to think about it, I think the Breach Stones are worth enough to where people are buying these who are trying to push levels or do like carries or try to farm the bosses for uniques or even for like for feared sets, that I think it's worth it. Next up, we have Altar Farming. Altar Farming also goes in S tier. I originally had it in A tier. I think this goes in the bottom of S. Altar Farming days 1 through 3 are insane. Right, altars just drop a lot of raw currency. However, it does make your map significantly harder, but it drops enough raw currency to where we're just like, it's really good, right? Essences days 1, 2, 3. I think it goes here. It's a bit worse than Sanctum, but it is better than Heist. Essences, people need essences, man. Days 1 through 3, this is how people are crafting their gear. They're slamming essences on items, looking for upgrades. They're not, big fossil crafting. They're not, going crazy bestiary crafting. Essences are what people are using to craft early on, right? They're finding a fractured mod maybe, and then they're essencing it for something decent besides that, right? So essences are insanely profitable early on in the league. Okay, so this is Delhi. I think Delhi days 1 through 3 go here. Delhi is insane, right? You can print the currency with it. You can print scarabs with it, depending on the price of scarabs. You could even print maps with it, There is a lot you can do with Delhi, and Delhi's just really good. Stack decks, right? We don't know how expensive div cards are going to be, once again, because we have no group play MFers that are just printing cards, right? So cards may be really expensive this league, right? Mage Blood cards might be really expensive this league, which means stack decks value go way up. And if deck values go up, then the value of the Delhi Orb goes up. So this, I think it's really good early on, honestly. And I think it is worth opening your stack decks early on in the league because stack decks don't sell for a lot. And there's a lot of good cards early on in the league that are expensive, right? There's like the 6-link item cards. There's just a bunch of random unique cards that don't go for anything in a week from, league start. But day 2, day 3, people are still looking for those uniques. Those uniques haven't flooded the market yet. Once again, with group play, there's less of those uniques on the market, which makes them more valuable, which makes their cards more valuable. I'm debating putting it like S. Like, I think it's sleeper OP, but I'm going to put it in A tier. I think this might be the best A tier option, but I'm going to put it under Legion simply because I'm not sure. Expedition goes here. I think Sanctum's slightly better than Expedition, but Expedition and Sanctum, basically the same thing. You just print Divines, print whatever. I should specify, I think Rog is also here, an S tier for days 1 through 3, because Rog prints really good items. But when I look here, I'm speaking mostly about Danning and Tushen. I think it's right under Expedition in terms of printing currency. So here we have Guardian map farming / invitations. I think it's right here. Guardian map farming's basically always profitable at every point in the league, especially early league when people need the sets to run the bosses to get carries and whatnot. These are really good. These are very profitable days 1 through 3 if you can farm these, even as like a stepping stone, right? If you're playing a boss and character like Hexblast, which I will be league starting, you can go from doing like normal maps, whatever, into running these invitations, into then upgrading your character with the invitation loot to then start running bosses and carrying. These are definitely very, very, very good. Last we have is Delve. I think I'm putting Delve in B tier. I think Delve probably goes like right top of B tier, honestly. People want fossils, people want resonators, but Delve is hard to get into. You're not in Delve for a while early on, right? You haven't upgraded your mine. You haven't delved deep enough. It's kind of hard to get there, but if you can get there early, Delve can be really good money, right? Your fossils, your resonators, they're worth a good amount of money. Your Delve Delve mod items, those are worth a lot of money. To Hexblast players, right? Your curse on hit rings, those are worth a lot of money. So if you can get there with Delve, it's really, really, really good. Actually, I'm going to put Delve to bottom of A tier. I originally had it at B tier. It's going to A tier. The more I sit here thinking about it, the more I'm like, man, this is just a good mechanic early on in the league. If you can get there, it's extremely hard to get there, but if you can, it's really, really, really good. So I think this is the tier list going into the league. So obviously we have just a quick recap of the tier list. We have in its own tier, Hideout Warrioring. As I mentioned, very complex, very hard, very skill dependent. Into the S tier, which is just the absolute banger of currency generators. We have Bossing at number 1. This is with carries on TFT we're taking into account. Then we have Sanctum Expedition. These are kind of interchangeable, but I think Sanctum is slightly better. Then we have Essences. People really want their Essences to slime their items, craft their items early league. Heist, very cheap, very efficient way to print a lot of low tier basic currency when people need it early in the league, right? Altar Farming, once again, it's kind of an add-on to your map. You don't have to spec too much into this, worry too much about it, but it makes a lot of currency off just clicking on, red altars, right? Click, oh, I'm dropping Chaos Orbs every now and then, right? Very good. In the A tier, which is the very good tier, we have Legion as number 1. Really solid, prints a lot of currency, drops a lot of maps. You get a lot of your incubators, which you then pop and you get even more loot. Really great, solid, very bow-oriented characters love this mechanic. It's a very zoomy mechanic. You click, you kill, you leave map. Deli, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's a very sleeper mechanic. I think it's going to be insanely good, especially with the new systems in place, right? No more group MF. Well, with the new auction house, I think it's insane, right? Shaper Guardian map farming. Well, I say Shaper Guardian, any Guardian map farming, right? Guardian Invitation map farming, insane like entry to bossing, going into days 1 through 3, right? Makes a lot of currency. It can be your stepping stone into doing carries if you want. Blight, very early on in the league, makes a lot of currency. People need oils, drops a lot of basic currency that people want. And you can get into this as early as white maps. So it's really good. Harvest. Not much to say about it. People want to reroll their bad, let's say bad deli orbs into good deli orbs. People want to reroll, bad essences to good essences. They want to swap gear. They want to craft gear. Really solid. Scarab farming, people always need scarabs. Delve, fossils are very expensive. Same with resonators, very early in the league. In fact, I'd say they're so expensive, don't craft with them unless you know what you're doing. Fossils are worth a lot. So also early on in the league, fossil mod items, delve mod items are worth a lot, like the +1 spectre chest, cruise on hit rings, yada yada. Very expensive. Harbinger, I don't know much about Harbinger, so I talked with No Name about this one. This is where he put it. Thumbs up from me. I think it's worth it. Fracturing orbs are pretty good. I believe they're supposed to start dropping maps now, so this can be good for map sustain. Ultimatum, catalysts are in need. I wasn't comfortable putting it higher as I wanted to. Originally, I wanted to put it maybe A tier, but until we know exactly how the changes to this mechanic shape up, I'm going to put it in the B tier. It's okay. I'm optimistic for it, but I don't know how it's going to land. Breaches, I kind of talked myself up. Originally had it C tier. I think breaches are pretty good. Getting those Chayula stones for people who want to do feared and just overall people who are trying to level their characters. Really solid option at league start. They're fairly expensive. Bestiary, I'm putting in the B tier, not the C tier, because this is something where you run it and you hold on to the items you get from it, right? Bestiary is so cheap to include in your map that sustaining your map cost from map to map isn't really an issue, because you'll probably just drop the stuff you need to sustain it in terms of raw chaos from altars, etc., etc. And you can pair beasts with essences, right? Essences you can use to sustain your map cost and make a little bit of money. The beasts you kind of just hold on to, right? Hold on to the beasts, wait to week 1, week 2, sell your beasts when they're worth a lot of currency to those mirror crafters. Rogue Exiles, pretty solid side mechanic. I put it on the list because it can be used as a currency farming strategy. You can use it to farm scarabs. It farms a lot of maps. You can also just add it to get a little bit of extra loot to your map. Nothing crazy, but it's good. Ritual, I think Ritual's sleeper OP. I wouldn't say OP, but sleeper good. I could see myself putting it in the B tier list. We really want the synth bases from Ritual early on, right? And even like Blizzard Crowns are pretty good. But getting those synth bases, like those percent decks, +1 frenzy, +1 power charge, +1 endurance charge, percent int, all that, the rings, the belts, the aura helmets, right? All these pretty good from Ritual early on in the league. People really want these, but it's Ritual. I can't talk myself into putting into the B tier. I think Abyss is fairly mids. Yes, Stygian Vices are kind of expensive early in the league. They drop very quickly in price. Ghastly Eye Jewels, you can maybe find a good one, but I mean, that's reliant on IDing items to find something good to sell. It's not really consistent. Most people, if they really want a good jewel, they will fracture something on it. They will buy one that's fractured. It's not insane. And then we have spirits in D tier. Just don't farm spirits as your main mechanic. All right. Hear me out, you guys. You little old MFing goblins. All right. Stop ghosting your maps. Just don't do it. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this fairly long video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. So I know you guys like content like this. I'm going to be making a video tomorrow that basically says, hey, you're playing this build. These are the best farming strategies to play with your build, right? So I'm going to be looking at probably like the top 10 builds that are likely going to be played going into league start. And I'm going to say, hey, this build's really good for this, 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 and this. It's not so good for this. And that way you guys can kind of know what to farm with your build, right? Maybe you know what you're playing, you're not sure what you're going to farm. This can kind of push you in the direction of, hey, I should be farming this, not this. Another build may be better for this. If I want to farm this, maybe I can play this. Anyways, peace out.